How's it going, everyone? This is Shiz Network here, back again with yet another video. Today I'm going to be making a video essay explaining why I think that there are 10 reasons why the Nintendo Switch is the best current gen game console. Now keep in mind that this is all just my opinion and everything. It's not meant to be taken seriously. If you have any reasons telling me otherwise, by all means, let me know in the comments below. Like I said, this is purely opinionated, so in no way, shape, or form should you take what I say in this video very seriously. And with that being said, I think we're gonna get on with our first reason. All right, and my first reason is actually something that I'm pretty sure some people would actually agree with me with, and it's the fact that it's very friendly to indie developers. The one thing that I love about the Switch is that there's tons of independent games that you can find on the Switch, even though there is a good majority of them that you can also find on PC and other systems and stuff like that. The thing with the Switch is that it's very, very friendly to all kinds of independent developers. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's actually very easy to port games for the Switch compared to other systems, as far as I'm concerned. I might be wrong, but judging from what I'm seeing, I do see a lot more independent games on the Switch than I do see on PS4 or Xbox One and everything, which I think is actually a really good look. There's a lot of like independent games that you can easily get for your Switch, and one of my favorite examples of this is Fight and Rage. And for those of you who don't know what that game is, it's basically a beat 'em up game. But there's also all kinds of other beat 'em ups. That's another thing. Is that there's all kinds of like different beat 'em ups that you can find for the Switch. One of which is actually one of my favorite beat 'em ups of all time, River City Girls, which was developed by WayForward, the company who is known for developing the Shantae games, which you can also find on the Switch as well. So there you go. There's a whole collection of like beat 'em ups and platforms on it, but we'll get more into the games a little later. But another reason, the second reason why I think the Switch is the best current gen game console is because of the amount of accessories that exist for this thing. Like, there is a ton of accessories that you can grab for the Switch. Like, you know, you already know how the Joy-Con is a thing, right? But they also have like the little steering wheels, which I think is actually really awesome. It's almost like a homage in a way to the original steering wheels that were for the Wii. But the difference is that you actually use them with the Joy-Cons. And not only that, but there's also all kinds of other different accessories that you can grab for the Switch, like all kinds of arcade sticks for fighting games and stuff like that. And then you also have one of the best controllers ever made, the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. Like, honestly, the Pro controller is honestly one of the best controllers I've ever used. It honestly makes a lot of games on the Switch play so much better compared to the Joy-Con. I think everyone would agree with me that, like, as innovative as the Joy-Con is, you know, the Nintendo Switch, the Pro controller is by far the superior controller. Like, you know, you can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong with that. You know what I mean? That's really everything I have to say about the accessories. Is that there's just like all kinds of different like accessories that you can get compared to other systems. Like, you also got like fight pads and everything like that. I do know that the PS4 also has a fight pad itself, but with the Switch, it's just that there's a lot more creativity, if that makes sense. Like, it's very creative when it comes to accessories, which Nintendo has been since the NES days. And that's what I love about Nintendo, is that they always come up with creative ways to play games, even as of 2017 with the release of the Nintendo Switch, and even in like 2021 they're still like, you know, trying to be innovative. But we'll get into the innovation a little bit later. But the next reason why I think it's the best is because of how powerful it is. It's like, even though it's not technically as powerful as the PS4, the Xbox One, or even PC, it's very powerful for a handheld system. That's the thing, is that the Nintendo Switch is actually pretty powerful for the hardware that it is. Nintendo is known for developing like hardware that isn't technologically the most powerful systems on Earth. They're more focused on like the quality of their content, which is why many of their games are considered some of the best games of all time. In fact, what I'm saying in regards to how technologically powerful the system is actually leads me to my next point as far as why I think the Switch is the best current gen game system right now. It's the fact that it's a console and handheld hybrid. Like, there's no other handheld system on the market right now. Like, the last one that we really had was the not only the Nintendo DS, but in the 3DS and the 2DS, but we also had the PlayStation Vita. They were like the only handheld consoles at the time. Nowadays, we really don't even see much handheld consoles nowadays, which is very unfortunate. But the good news is that the Switch is currently the only handheld console that's out in the market right now, and it's the most popular because it's not strictly a handheld system. That would be the Nintendo Switch Lite. If you have the original Nintendo Switch model like I do, you can not only play it as a handheld system, but you can also hook the dock up to your TV and have it play at 1080p, and you can also use it to capture games if you're a gamer or a streamer like myself, which is why you're seeing the Breath of the Wild gameplay that you see before you, which is the fact that it works on the Elgato. And that's what I love about the Switch, the fact that you can differentiate, the fact that you can switch between, no pun intended, between the console version, like on the dock, and the handheld version. And the only differences between the handheld version of the Switch and the console version of the Switch is that the dock version upscales the graphics to a 1080p resolution, but when you're playing in a handheld mode, it's 720p, which is actually still hella good for a small screen. Honestly, it's so good that you probably wouldn't even know that the graphics was downscaled. It literally is that good. Like, I'm not even kidding you. It looks absolutely gorgeous. The only way to know, to be perfectly honest with you, is to just have a Switch yourself, which if you don't have a Switch yourself, then I don't know what to tell you, you know what I mean? But the next reason, and this is something I'm actually kind of passionate about, is the fact that many of its flagship titles are some of the highest selling games ever made. That's the thing with Nintendo, is that they are known for making household games and everything, and the new Mario and Zelda games are no exceptions to that. Like, a lot of them are just literally the highest selling games ever made. Like, for example, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which sold over 20 million copies, making it one of the best selling video games of all time. And the same thing goes for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is currently the best selling Nintendo Switch game of all time, which again is actually really good. And then you also have Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, which is a hack and slash game that's also one of the best, not only one of the best selling games on the Switch, but also the best selling game of the franchise that it's a part of, the Warrior series, if I'm not mistaken. So you also have to take into account that Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is on there, and everyone loves Smash, like since the N64 days, and even the GameCube days with Melee, and on the Wii there was Brawl, and then on the Wii U it was Smash 4. You know what I mean? Every single game was always like a bestseller, but with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate though, not only is it one of the best-selling games on the Switch, but it also made history by becoming the highest-selling fighting game of all time, selling over 22 million copies. That pretty much means that Smash Bros. Ultimate has outsold other famous fighting games like Tekken and Street Fighter. That's like a huge honorary commitment, and it's a huge testament to how awesome Nintendo is when it comes to making fighting games and how marketable their flagship titles are. Like, it's a huge testament to if there's anything, you know what I mean? So that's just one of my reasons, but like I said, it's just from my point of view. But the next reason is, which is something that I kind of already tapped on earlier, is the fact that Nintendo continues to be innovative. Like, every year, there's always like some new stuff coming out for the Switch and everything, new games and new ways to play games and everything, new content, new DLC, stuff like that. I mean, you get DLC content across all different consoles and everything like that, but as I said before, with the amount of accessories that exist for the Switch, it always continues to be innovative in every way, shape, or form, which I think is really, really awesome. Like, I don't think there's ever going to get to a point where people are sick and tired of what Nintendo is throwing at their faces, you know what I mean? It's one of the reasons how come I'm very fortunate to have grown up with the Nintendo brand. Like, even though I was primarily a PlayStation kid growing up, I still pretty much love the Nintendo brand, because one of the few systems I played as a kid was not only the N64, but the Super Nintendo as well. In fact, the N64 was my very first Nintendo console I ever played, and it was pretty much one hell of a start, if I have anything to say about that. Another reason why I think the Switch is the best current-gen game console right now is the fact that it has a good selection of action-adventures and fighting games on it. Now, this is a little bit biased, I'm not even gonna lie to you. I can already see some of the negative comments about people probably arguing that PC does it better. and PlayStation 4 and Xbox does it better. The thing is, I'm not comparing it to PC because PC is honestly its own entity. A lot of people like to compare PC and everything. I mean, to be fair, a lot of gamers like myself pretty much already knows that PC is it. And, I'm gonna come off, like I said, I'm gonna come off a little biased when I say this. PC is definitely far superior to consoles because of the independent budgeting that you can do, and the fact that you can also do build your computer to be more powerful than consoles and stuff like that, and the fact that there's a lot more things you can do on PC compared to consoles and stuff like that. But that's a discussion for a whole different video. But if we're talking specifically like home consoles like the PS4, the Xbox One, and the Switch, I would argue that the Switch kind of does it better. There are some differences though. However, there's games like Tekken 7, Street Fighter 5, and Soul Calibur 6, you know what I mean, that are really, really awesome, but pretty much I would prefer those on PC anyway. But if we're talking specifically consoles, the Switch just does it better because, as I said before, there's a lot of great games for this thing, like so many action adventures that's on it. And you also got RPGs, like I said, you have like Hyrule, like I said, you have Hyrule Warriors, which is a really, really awesome hack and slash game that was made by Koei Tecmo. And then you also have, of course, The Legend of Zelda, which I've actually just recently got into. Like, I've been playing the crap out of Breath of the Wild, and I remember when I first bought it, I was unsure of whether or not if I was going to fall in love with it, and literally the moment I started playing it, I instantly became a Legend of Zelda fan. Yes, I actually had never been a fan of the Legend of Zelda series up until I started playing Breath of the Wild, and I can safely say I'm a full-fledged Legend of Zelda fan after playing Breath of the Wild. And then there's other games like Monster Hunter Rise, which recently came out, which is a really, really fun game to play as well. And then you also have, obviously, the Mario Brothers games, you know what I mean? And Super Mario Maker and all that stuff. And when it comes to fighting games, I already mentioned Super Smash Bros. But you also have other fighting games that are on it, like Under Night and Birth. You also have, I think Blaze Blue is also on it too. Yes, Blaze Blue is on it. Dragon Ball FighterZ, pretty much any of the fighting games with the exception of Guilty Gear. I'm not sure. Actually, Guilty Gear is on the Switch. Yeah, Guilty Gear is also on it. Pretty much any fighting game from like Arc System Works you can easily find on the Switch as well. But there's also a group of other fighting games like the Neo Geo fighting games as well. More recently, they actually came out with SNK versus Capcom, like an actual port. And so far, the Switch is the only console to have a port of SNK versus Capcom, the match of the Millennium. And as I said before, it also has a bunch of other fighting games that were made by SNK as well. So yes, it does have a good selection of fighting games to come by and everything, which makes it very, very marketable, especially if you love playing fighting games on the go and everything. But like I said, keep in mind that this is just my personal perspective. Feel free to have your own reasons. I just don't want people to come onto this video and start attacking me for just, having my reasons and everything. Like, I don't expect people to see from my perspective, but I just expect people to kind of listen out, keep an open mind, you know what I mean? Like, it's very important that we have an open mind when listening to other people's perspectives, you know what I mean? Like, that's, the only way to really understand is to listen, you know what I mean? But let's just move on, okay? The next reason why I think it's the best is because it has a good selection of classics. Like, I'm not even kidding you, it has a lot of great classic games that you can play on it. And that's because the Switch offers Super Nintendo and NES games. And as I said before, with the fighting games, they have a lot of classic Neo Geo games on it as well. But there's also, like, as I said before, with the NES and the Super Nintendo, there's like a ton of like classic games that you can play, like the original Super Mario Bros. Trilogy, Ninja Gaiden. You can also play the original Legend of Zelda and even Zelda 2 as well, which is where the RPG elements actually originated from, for those who don't know. And then you also have Link to the Past, which is often considered one of the best, if not the best game on the Super Nintendo. And even some people consider it the best Legend of Zelda game ever made. But more recently, with the release of Breath of the Wild, everyone agrees that Breath of the Wild is the best Zelda game because it's the most different compared to the series' usual linear format and everything. And beyond that, you also have a bunch of games that are like that pay homage to retro games. You know, as I said before, with River City Girls, and then more recently Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And then you also have Ultra Street Fighter 2, which is another version of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. But I know not a whole lot of people like that game, but I think it still counts as well. And then it also has Namco Museum. Yes, this console is also the most recent example. If you guys have watched my channel for a while, you guys probably know how much I love the Namco Museum games and all that stuff. Partially because I grew up with that as a kid, but with the amount of classes that you can play on the Switch, it's no wonder why everyone will want to play this thing. Like, it's no doubt about it. You know what I mean? But I know classic games don't suit everyone's needs, but if you're a classic gamer, then the Switch is definitely for you, especially if you love playing games on the go. So this is definitely the console of choice for you. Next reason why is because of the local multiplayer with the Joy-Con. What I love about the Joy-Con is that even though it's not the best controller or the definitive way to play with the Switch, it's the fact that, you know, the Joy-Con is very, very innovative. When you first buy a Switch, there's like a bunch of things that come inside the box. There's like these little black shoulder buttons that you can slide onto each side of the Joy-Con, whether it be the left side or the right side or whatever. And basically what you can do is that you can use them as separate controllers. So basically you already have 2 controllers right out of the box, technically. And I think that's one of the coolest ideas that Nintendo has ever done, which ties in with one of my reasons for why it's the best, which is that Nintendo continues to be innovative. And one of the biggest way that they were able to be innovative with the Switch was given the ability to have like 2 players with the Joy-Con, so that you can use the left side or the right side for 1 or 2 players. You know what I mean? Because I remember when I first played, I think it was the Super Mario Party, which is on the Switch for those who don't know. But yeah, Super Mario Party. I remember I was playing that with a group of friends, and this was around the time when I had first seen the Switch. At first, I was like, okay, well, what is this? And then I found out, oh, you can actually split the controller up into 2 and use them as 2 players and everything. I think that's actually really cool. You know what I mean? Like, that's honestly one of the best ideas that Nintendo has ever done. And honestly, I don't think that there's ever going to be any kind of game console that's ever going to replicate how creative Nintendo is with all their systems. You know, especially with the Switch. You know what I mean? Which is, like I said, this is one of the biggest reasons why most people claim that this was exactly what the Wii U should have been. You know what I mean? And I can totally see why. The last reason, this is going to be the most extremely biased reason, so bear with me, because like I said, this whole video has been opinionated, so bear with me. My final reason for why the Switch is the best current gen game console right now is simple, and it's literally what's on screen right now. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Honestly, if you do not have this game in your collection, much less have ever even played this game, if you love action adventures, you are literally hurting yourself, and you need to buy a Switch and buy a copy of this game right now. This game has earned a reputation of being one of the best video games ever made, which is a rare thing for video games nowadays, because most video games nowadays usually repeats what's already been done since like the 80s and 90s and everything. But Breath of the Wild is truly a once-in-a-lifetime type of game. Like, it's very, very rare that games get this kind of reputation, and the fact that it did is just a huge testament to how Nintendo is very versatile with coming up with new ideas for their games, and they're not afraid to try anything new, even if it means they risk drawing in a good chunk of criticism. But Breath of the Wild is truly one of the best games ever made, especially, I'll even go so far as to say it's probably in the top 5 best action adventures of all time, dare I say. Like I said, it's just my opinion, so bear with me, okay? But Breath of the Wild is just an amazing game with amazing graphics and an art style and everything, a truly fascinating story, and an amazing world to explore and everything, with all kinds of things to do, such as cooking and creating elixirs, collecting different weapons and shields and armor and stuff like that, and coming across some really very insane puzzle solving and a lot of tough enemies to fight and everything, and a bunch of philosophical messages and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, the Breath of the Wild is truly is truly a breathtaking game, if I have anything to say about that. And honestly, as of right now, Breath of the Wild is currently my favorite game on the Switch right now, and it's the biggest reason why I think the Switch is the best current gen game console out there right now. So, like I said, it's just all my opinion, so there's no need to be upset or anything like that. Just keep in mind that we as gamers just have certain opinions that we just like to express and everything. And there's no shame in sharing them, even if it means that not everyone is going to agree with you. That's the whole purpose of me making this video, is so that I can just kind of give my own inputs on how I think of the Switch, especially since I've owned the Switch for quite some time now. Because I never got the Switch when it first came out. I actually bought my Switch during the start of the pandemic, and I honestly don't regret making that decision. And this was during a time when trying to buy a Switch was actually pretty difficult because they were selling out really fast. But I was one of the lucky ones to pick up a Switch when it first arrived on GameStop, so I didn't have to pay what the pretty much what the not the hackers. There's a word I'm just thinking of. I just can't think of it at the moment. Just bear with me. The scalpers. Yeah, the scalpers were selling it for much more for a good chunk of money, similar to what they're doing with the PS5 right now. And thankfully, I didn't have to do that because GameStop had one in stock, and I was able to get one just right off the bat, just like that. So yes, I'm very lucky to have a Switch, and buying the Switch was one of the best decisions I've ever made, especially as a video game collector. You know what I mean? Because like everyone on my channel knows that I collect retro games and stuff like that. And collecting this Switch for my collection is just great. Especially, like I said, I have been a Nintendo fan growing up, even though I primarily grew up with PlayStation. Like, I'm still a PlayStation guy at heart, to be honest with you. Actually, right now, as far as current gen right now goes, I'm currently more of a PC guy than anything. Like, I just love PC gaming. PC gaming is just currently my favorite right now when it comes to current gen, like, altogether. But when it comes to, like, just video game, like, home video game consoles, the Switch is definitely right on the top. And like I said, even though Nintendo wasn't necessarily my favorite brand growing up, Nintendo has been my second favorite brand when it comes to home video game consoles, and it has truly become a part of me that's never going to that I'm never going to let go. If I'm being honest with you, like, I'm always gonna forever love the Nintendo brand for as long as I live. You know what I mean? But I hope you guys still enjoyed this video. If you guys did, make sure you guys leave a like and hit that subscribe button, so that way you'll be notified for when I upload new videos. As I said before, with the footage that you see on screen, like I said, this is from my experience from Breath of the Wild. Currently, I'm using it as a way of archive footage, but if you guys do want to see the footage, since it is a blind playthrough, so that way you guys can see my experiences with Breath of the Wild, let me know. It's just not going to have any commentary, that's the thing. But if you guys do want to see me, like, kind of grab the footage and stream it live and then give my own commentary or something like that, which I think would be a good idea, let me know. Because I would love to post the raw footage of me playing Breath of the Wild, and then me giving my inputs, explaining what I was doing during that playthrough and stuff like that. Because like I said, I don't know the game in and out yet, but the more and more I keep playing it, I just keep learning of it. I already put in about 15 hours of this game so far. It's really, really awesome, no doubt about it. In fact, I think it's actually currently the longest Zelda game at 50 hours. So anyway, I'm hopping out of here. Peace out, and this is Beyond the Infinite, and as always, think for yourself.